RenderForest.com.
Hi all, I'm Trisha Peach, host of the Peach Buzz, and I have very important news today. Yesterday evening, my third book, Why We Quit, came out on Amazon. I'm going to put the link below so you can check it out if you like. Have you ever thought about walking away from the ministry forever? I have a feeling that most pastors have, unless they are completely lying to me and to themselves. Ministry is a tough job. It's not for everyone. I don't think you can really understand unless you have lived it. When I did my study for my master's degree and right now for my doctorate, I decided to do it on the problem of ministers walking away from ministry forever. So the problem is 4 out of 5 of every pastor, all pastors that enter ministry, leaving seminary or Bible college, leave forever by year 5. If you're having trouble with the math on that, that's 80%. So if you are one of the few who has stayed in ministry now for more than 5 years, I can say that you are a veteran. You are a veteran. That was my little daughter you saw go through in the mirror there. Anyway, you're a veteran of ministry. Now, one of my friends said that makes me completely insane if I stayed in ministry longer than 5 years. What is that? What's that? Like do self-abuse? No, I have been in ministry a long time. I was a full-time staff children's pastor for 17 years. My parents have been in ministry. I joke that my dad's been in ministry for 78 years and he laughs at me. I think it's like 40 years he's been in ministry. But I learned a little bit through life experience on how to stay in ministry for the long haul. But I did my study on why so many pastors leave ministry very early. I mean, think about this with me. They went into seminary or Bible college with big dreams and excitement, and they really felt like God called them. The number one I hear was, well, they didn't make enough money. I don't believe that for 1 minute, and my research did not support that theory either. If you went into ministry for the great paycheck, you had the wrong guidance counselor. I knew going into ministry that it was not going to be for the big paycheck. So then I thought, okay, they went to school for this. They had experience. They had passion. They felt like God called them. So the second reason I hear was, well, they weren't really called in the first place. I have trouble with this one too, that we have so many churches that don't have a pastor. We have so many countries all over the world that have never heard of Christ. I refuse to believe that God is not calling people into these harvest fields. The fields are white for harvest, especially with kids ministry. It's the most unreached group right now is our next generation of kids. I do not believe that God's not calling them. And I think it's just a cop-out to say, well, those 80% didn't make it. They weren't called anyway. I don't agree with that. I believe there are underlying issues, and that's what the evidence supported. Big things that the book deals with are conflict, horrible conflict management that happens within churches, the awful enmeshment, lack of boundaries where your church is your life. Church is your life. It's your family. It's your job. It's everything. It becomes your whole world, and you don't have any life outside of that. Another big one was different scandals that can happen and accusations, whether true or not. We discussed that in the book too. Protecting yourself from false accusations. That's definitely in the book. We talk about transitions. Pastoral transitions are the number one time that pastors drop out of ministry forever. I think it's because your whole world is that church, and when you change churches, now you've lost your extended family, you've lost where you worship, you've lost the paycheck, you've lost your entire community was that church position. And that's a time that pastors tend to drop out of ministry forever. Really bad church situations tend to break a pastor. They call it burnout, but I kind of unpack what is burnout. What are we talking about with burnout? I have a bit of a controversial chapter in there about pastors and mental health. We pastors don't like to go to the doctor. We don't want to go talk to a mental health expert because apparently we're supposed to be perfect. This January at CPC in Orlando, I'm going to be teaching a breakout on ministry and mental health, and I'm hoping it helps quite a few people. Also in the book, I share a lot of very raw personal stories from interviews that I did with many pastors across the U.S., and some of them are very difficult to read. And I have gotten the criticism that, well, Trish, isn't this just giving fuel to those who hate Christians or to atheists or whatever? And I said, we're already giving fuel to atheists by this kind of conduct happening within our churches and losing this many pastors. Something needs to be done systemically in the way that we do church to keep these pastors in for the long haul. I think we're not taking care of our pastors like we could. We're losing far too many, and it doesn't have to be that way. I know it breaks the heart of God how many, I think, get chewed up and spit out on a regular basis, and we lose all those years of fantastic ministry. Who wins in that mess of pain? Only the enemy. So we talk about in the book these stories of what people have been through, some who made it back into ministry, some that never made it back into ministry, some that barely escaped with their sanity. And I'm very real and raw there, and I don't apologize for that, because I feel like we need to address the situation in order to make changes. And I do suggest changes in the book based on the research. Here's some things we need to do to keep our pastors in ministry for the long haul. I want to stress that this book is not children's ministry specific. My first two books were basically for children's pastors, children's missionaries, and they have done really well. I've been really pleased with how they've gone. This book is for anyone who serves in ministry, paid or unpaid, lead pastor, worship pastor, student ministries pastor. If you're in ministry, you need to read this book because it talks about having realistic expectations, building boundaries between home and church, making sure that you have a support system that will hold up your arms when the signs are showing you need to go in and get some help and get some counseling. So I'm hoping that this blesses you. You can rate it on Amazon and be honest. I read them all. If you hate it, you say you hate it. If it ministers to you, tell me why it ministered to you. It's not an easy thing to read in some places because we're just being real about the situation. But I'm hoping it blesses you. Pastor Appreciation Day is coming up, so if you're not in ministry, how about getting a copy for your pastor? Because hopefully you're not hoping your pastor leaves ministry forever soon. Hopefully you can give it to your pastor and say, here, this is why we want you to stay in the ministry for the long haul. So again, down below, click on this. You can look at a copy of it on Amazon. It should be available for Kindle and international purchase next week. It's only available in paperback in the US right now. But by next week, well, maybe when you're seeing this, it should go live internationally and on Kindle. But be blessed. And if you want to share some of your ministry stories, feel free to message me. I had somebody last night messaging me. They had seen part of the book and it just touched them a lot. They're going through a struggle and a hard time, and if I can just encourage you, the God who called you still called you. The gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. If I can encourage you to keep trying and keep going and keep moving for God, and if you've been out of the ministry, ask God, is this the time that you want to bring me back in? So I'd be honored if you got a copy of the book for yourself and for a minister that you know, for your team. And I will see some of you in January when I teach the breakout on pastors and mental health. I love you guys. God bless. I'll be talking to you from the Bahamas next week. I'll be there doing missions in the Bahamas. Yeah, poor me. Oh, I'm excited though. I'm excited to go. Love you guys. Let me know what you think of the book, please. I want to hear it. Love you. God bless. And I'll see you next week.